Today's guest is Anthony Kuo. Anthony is a career satisfaction coach and he wants to help people intentionally craft a career they're excited to wake up for. Learn more about Anthony at untamedcareer.com. Anthony's question that he asks to clients: what do you want to be when you grow up?
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Earrings Off. We want to invite you to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. You can find us on Facebook at Earrings Off Podcast and on Instagram at The Earrings Off Podcast.
Welcome to Earrings Off. I'm Lou.
And I'm Teresa.
Well, hello. We have with us today Anthony Kuo, who's joined us here on Earrings Off. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Well, it's good to have you. Let's start with Anthony. Talk to us about what was the pivotal moment in your corporate career that made you realize the importance of career satisfaction, and that really was the impetus to you becoming a career satisfaction coach. Talk to us about that.
Well, I like that you use the word pivotal because it's a long story that builds over many, many years. And there was one moment, though, that made the decision for me. And it was a car accident, of all things.
Really?
I was driving home from work and I stopped off at the liquor store to pick up some beers because I was, going to kick back with some friends when I got home. And on my way out, I tapped somebody in the parking lot, and I live in New York City, and I didn't really notice. There are a lot of cars around. Now I didn't think of anything of it, but somebody saw it and they called the cops. They're like, "Hey, this dude just made a hit and run." I'm not going to get into the whole nitty gritty of it all. It's way too boring and legalese anyway. But like, it felt so unfair. Like it felt so like unbelievably unfair. Like, why are they coming after me? And at the time I was reverse commuting from New York City to my job in New Jersey. It was like a hour and 15-minute drive each direction without traffic. And the car just became like the symbol for everything that was going wrong in my life. It just like crystallized into this, like everything that didn't work, right? It was the commute that didn't work. Well, where was the commute taking me to? It was to this job that I was good at and paid me well, but I didn't really enjoy. And why was I doing that? Well, I was chasing all this, these internal goals that were aligned to like, what is the American dream of get good grades, get a good job, get a paycheck, buy the house, all that I wasn't even really bought into deep down. And so this triggered this whole thing where I was like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. That was the moment when I decided. I had already been flirting with the idea of doing it. I was already starting to put down some plans. And that was the moment where I was like, this is happening.
But Anthony, that's got to be, was it scary?
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
It was one of the scariest things I ever did.
But you did it.
I did it, yes. And I remember like my hands were shaking and my voice was trembling when I told my parents, "Hey guys, I'm gonna leave my job and I'm not gonna replace it with anything. I'm gonna try and do my own thing now."
Wow.
I was scared out of my wits.
I bet, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I have my daughter actually is currently in a job where she goes between liking it and not liking it, right? And it is she went to school for engineering, and that's actually what she's doing as her career. So for someone like her, like how do you help individuals differentiate between the skills they're good at and a passion that truly aligns?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because we
Yeah.
are trained in this society just to think about what we're good at,
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
right?
right.
Yeah.
Well,
That's what,
but Anthony, they teach you that if you figure out what you're good at, then that's the thing, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you a story. That kind of it's very personal to me, but it like really differentiates between a skill you're good at and a skill you enjoy, right? I grew up in a real ma musical family.
Mhm.
Um, my parents both went to Juilliard, both went to the Eastman
Wow.
School of Music,
Okay.
and they trained me. I was trained to a very high degree, and I performed in Carnegie Hall when I was 17.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness, Anthony. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, see, everyone says that, and it sounds impressive, and it is.
Well, it is.
I won't deny that. And yeah, so it sounds impressive, and it is. And at the same time, I wasn't really into it. I did it for my
Okay.
mom,
Yeah.
and I did a very good job. And it was not what I was really interested in. What I was really interested in was being on the swim team. And uh there was this one day I remember where uh, there was a swim competition and a piano competition on the same day. I could only pick one. And I was going to win the piano competition. That was like pretty much guaranteed because I was really good.
Mhm.
I was not going to win anything at the swim competition because I was pretty good, but not that good.
Yeah.
And so my mom was like, you know, well, wouldn't you rather win something? And on the inside, I was like, well, no, I'd rather do the thing I really enjoy, and I don't care if I win nothing. Um, I went to the piano competition and I cleaned up house. I won first prize and everything. Um, but I was just like, oh, right. I've made peace with that, and I made peace
Yeah.
with my mom about that.
Yeah.
And it still hurts,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, right. So back to your question about what do you do when you're good at something and you go back between enjoying it, right? Because it is inherently satisfying to be good at something. But what do you do
Mhm.
when you go between enjoying it and not enjoying it? When I work with people like this, and this is very common, by the way, right? Um, First thing to do is to appreciate both sides of that coin, right? Because it's not a conflict unless there is a side of both coins,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
Because if it was all good, you just be cool. And if it was all bad, you would have quit already. Consequences be damned,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So we got to appreciate what is valuable about this job, what is keeping you there, right? So it
Mhm.
might be the salary, it might be the stability, it might be I really like my coworkers, it might be I really enjoy what I do. And then we also appreciate what is not doing it for you? What is driving you up the wall? What's making you come home and the first thing you got to do is complain to your mom, complain to your spouse.
Mhm.
Oh, that freaking thing, that freaking guy again, right?
Mhm.
Um, and get to really like I know it's not in the vogue right now to complain and to be in your negativity. We
Mhm.
talk about be grateful and be in your gratitude.
Mhm.
And it's really important to acknowledge what ain't working,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because when you acknowledge it, you take its power away and you can do something about it. You can make a
Right.
choice about it.
Right. Hmm. Okay. So, with the recent shifts in work culture, how can someone navigate the mixed landscape of remote and in-person work? And COVID just
Yeah.
changed all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's tough, right? You get all the if you read the news, you got all these people up in arms because their employer is saying return to office. Um, what's funny is that in my group, I have a career satisfaction coaching group.
Hmm.
Um, I've got people saying, "Why isn't anybody going to the office? I'm lonely."
Hmm. Hmm.
They're driving themselves nuts. They're going out of their minds in their home office and they're like, I need to talk to somebody. I need to see somebody else in the flesh. This is not good for me. And so I think something we need to talk about is like everyone's different. We have different preferences. For some people, working at home really, really serves them.
Right.
And for some people, that's just bad for their mental health.
Right.
And likewise for being in the office. For some people, they really get off in that social piece. They really get off around being around other people and collaborating in the same room. And then other people, that's like, get out of my space.
Yeah. Yeah.
So navigating it is really about understanding yourself and understanding what is the kind of environment that works for me. And if it is available in your current employer, cool. Or maybe you have to make an ask or ask for some kind of accommodation. And if it's not, well, then maybe it's time to look for an environment where it is more conducive to who you are.
So that answer actually works for what I was going to ask next about that balance with aspects of career, financial stability, job security, and being personally fulfilled and satisfied on a job, right? So it that actually applies to that as well. So that's what you got to do. You got to, I guess, weigh the odds.
Yeah, you got to weigh the odds, and also you got to be realistic about what your circumstances are, right? I work with people who are, anywhere from fresh out of college, in their first job ever, all the way to people who are, senior executives, CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, right? Like, the fundamental question is the same, right? Like, what do I need to be happy at work? But the levers you have available to pull are going to be different.
Right.
The resources you have are going to be different. The experience you can, your ability to make the sale of whatever you're trying to do is going to be different, but also your responsibilities are going to be different, right? Because most 20-something-year-olds I know don't have kids, don't have families, don't have mortgages, whereas most 50-something-year-olds do. And so you got to take that into account. And especially with like, if you're in like dire financial straits and you need to get a job, that ain't the time to be picky. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Real talk.
unfortunately, you have to make some trade-offs. And so the first order of business is to get stable. And then once you're stable, then you can go back to having the mental space and the financial space to think about the more long-term, what do I need to feel fulfilled? But before I can be fulfilled, I need to keep a roof over my head.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So you're doing an assessment of where you are, a true assessment. Yeah. Yeah.
And what's surprising to me and that is that you have executives who are at the point in their lives where they're questioning whether or not they should be doing whatever it is that they're doing. Like once you reach that pinnacle, you would think that someone is doing something that they truly love. So I'm surprised to hear that you have clients who are also at that level in their career.
You would think that, but just like anybody, like they've been working hard at the same thing, and just like everyone, we've all been indoctrinated into the system that prioritizes skill, right? Like what we're saying before. So that's just somebody who's really skilled at a whole bunch of stuff, and they may or may not have given very much thought to whether they actually come home feeling more energized by their work than not. And often what happens with people in more senior ranks is that it's a big old chase to get there. It's like half the fun is the pursuit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you get to the top, and this is the most deflating thing that could happen. You get to the top and you go, oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Right. And then everything that you've built it up to be, the vision, the grandeur, the prestige. And then it turns out, oh, I'm just in spreadsheets all day. And I'm on Zoom with the board arguing with them for half my day. And I thought I was going to be the visionary leader, and what I'm doing is arguing with investors over, what the
Yeah.
appropriate course of the company is. That's not what I signed up to do.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So there's a bit of disillusionment that can happen, which can happen at any stage, right? You get out of college, you were studying psychology, and then you go work in a clinical psychology ward, and you're like, oh, I've made a big mistake.
Yeah.
Right. I've done that. I had an internship in biology. I was originally a biology major at NYU, and I somehow finagled in my freshman summer a internship with the NYU Medical School.
Mhm.
Because I thought that was the track that I wanted to go down. I spent one summer in the lab and I was like, okay, well, got that out of my system. I am so bad at this and I'm so not enjoying it.
Yeah.
It was enough to get me to change my major. And thank goodness I did, because,
Yeah.
imagine if I had pursued the full 4 years only to find that out on the back end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, Anthony, can you explore the connection between career satisfaction and overall mental well-being? How does your approach to career coaching cater to this interconnection?
hmm Well, probably anyone who is unhappy in their job right now could tell you that it affects your mental health,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Especially if it's been going on for a long time, right? You could come home feeling depressed, you could just anxious, can't put it down, and it could really start messing with your self-confidence, right? Especially if you're in a kind of toxic environment with people telling you left and right that you're no good at what you do.
Hmm.
Um, so when I built my process, I was acutely aware of this, because I realized that I wasn't just fixing up resumes, I was talking to human beings, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so when I work with somebody on their resume, for example, I'm not just talking about like what are the KPIs you hit and tell me the story of, the fanciest way to say I screwed in a light bulb and made a widget,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
What I'm really doing is helping them embrace themselves, to restore their sense of confidence, to restore their faith in themselves, right? Because that's what's really going to help someone sell themselves in an interview. The resume
Hmm.
is not at all about the piece of paper. I mean, yeah, you
Hmm.
need something to submit, but the resume is really the excuse, in my view anyway. The resume is an excuse to get in deep to what makes you tick, so that we can leverage that, so we can get you into an environment where you feel at home. You don't have to twist yourself into a pretzel just to fit
Yeah.
in, right? There's nothing more exhausting than having to pretend to be something or someone that you're not, right?
Well, Anthony, thank you. You have shared quite a bit of information, and we appreciate that. You added some clarity to this conversation. But those are all of the questions that we have for you today. Do you have any parting words for our audience?
I'm gonna leave you with my definition of career satisfaction.
Okay.
Career satisfaction to me is when you can find yourself in an environment doing something that comes from who you are, that comes from your personality, that leverages the strengths of your personality, but also values and appreciates the weird quirks of your personality,
Wow. Hmm.
right? So you show up in a place where you are appreciated for who you are. Your personality is welcome. And like I said before, nothing is more exhausting than when you have to pretend to be someone else,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting because I reflect back to when I got out of graduate school and the first job in management that I had, I remember going back to my office after about a few days, and the my thought was immediately seeing like a fish in water because that's what I felt like. I felt like I was
hmm
in the environment I was
Yes.
absolutely supposed to be in.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That's the feeling. That's the feeling I look to create for people.
Yeah.
And the opposite, of course, is a fish trying to climb a tree, as one of my clients very
Yeah.
colorfully
Yeah.
put to me one day.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Well, Anthony, thanks again. How can people get in touch with you?
My website is untamedcareer.com. And I am active on Facebook and LinkedIn. So we'll drop links
Okay. Okay.
and you can find me there. I respond to messages. So if you want to slide into my DMs,
All right.
I'll
Okay.
say hey back.
All right. Again, thank you so much, Anthony, for joining us here on Earrings Off. We appreciate it and take good care.
Thank you so much. You take care as well.